Hi everyone and welcome for this brand new tutorial how to paint rotors for the Blood Bowl Nurgle team. So for this tutorial we are going to paint some putrid flesh, some turquoise and a little bit of metallic metal. Don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, to like the video and don't hesitate to post some comments to ask me. The comment zone is totally free, so really don't hesitate to ask. And if you want, don't hesitate to support me on Patreon, so you will access to some brain special video only for you. Let's go for the paint. First, I primed all the miniatures with Nurgle Green from Games Workshop, and after that I start with some simple flesh from Prince Auguste to push my first highlights on the flesh. So I'm going to use as first shadow the basic color, and as you can see I have paint who have the same consistency like milk, so I can push the color and create some transition between the surface I start and I push my color at the end to the surface I want to be the more clear possible. If I use some more dark color, so I will make this exactly inverse. So I'm going to make that step by step on all the surfaces, and always take care that we always see the background just near the first color. For this second step, I make the paint on all the flesh parts, and now I'm going to focus on a smaller zone, on the smaller surfaces, but by using the same color is going to create a transition effect because I reach smaller surfaces. So my second step is with the same color, just I'm going to reach smaller surfaces. So now I'm going to clean the different surfaces by using some army green from Army Painter, and I'm come between my first highlights and my basic color to create my transition. Don't hesitate once again to post some comments or question, and I will try to answer very quickly. After that, I'm going to push some ivory for my last highlights on the flesh, always by reaching a very smaller surfaces, just some few points, some few lines, just to put my last highlight on the flesh. I'm going to make more and more special tutorial for my Patreon. For example, I already make one how to use pigments to make some rust and some other source lining. Don't hesitate to subscribe and to support me into my passion. Now I come back with some red, some pure red from Army Painter, very diluted, and I push into the recesses just some few, like the eyes, the scare, and some few parts, just to push more life into the miniatures. When I paint, this is the first mini I paint for this Blood Bowl team, and a lot of time I make some try. So step by step I learn how to make something more efficient, more quick, with a very quality finish. After this step I just come back with some red brown to put all the basic color on the leather. It's going to be very simple. As always, I always try to use the side of my brush to reach larger surfaces than with the end of my brush, just to be sure my base will be totally clean. Don't hesitate to take your time. Remember, the tutorial is always I always increase speed by 2 or 3, so take your time to make every step one by one. I'm going to use some blue tone from Army Painter to push more shadow into the different leather. There are some reds into my brown, so the blue is going to push more and more contrasts and some deep effects. I come back with some greedy gold from Army Painter to push my metallic on the different surfaces. By the way, finally, for the next miniatures, I will directly push some classical silver color. I will show you that in the next video tutorial. That's why I always start by simple miniatures when I start to make a project like a team or an army. I always start with one miniatures so I can learn, and I'm going to push these learnings to all my different and next miniatures. So I come back with a dark tone ink on all the metallic parts, just to push a little bit more shadow everywhere. Don't hesitate to share my tutorial to your friend. I have not a lot of English speaker, and I have not a very good English level, but don't hesitate to share to your friends and on the different kind of forum you can have. So it will be cool for me to have more and more subscribers. So now I come back with some ball gun metal directly, and I push my first highlight on the metallic part. You are going to see that I'm going to use some pigment on the metallic parts. It's a very efficient way to have something clean and very fast. So I come back again just to push more and more highlights with some mithril silver on all my metallic parts, just on some few parts. Remember to have a smaller and smaller surfaces step by step to be sure you are going to have a good transition. I'm going to create very soon websites so you can find some special miniatures. Some miniatures I paint, you can buy it directly on this new website. So it will be come probably in 1 or 2 weeks, no more. I am going to use this pigment I buy directly in an artist's shop, and I just have a little bit water on my brush. I take my pigment directly and I put it on the parts I want. As I explained before, I have a special tutorial to show how I put the pigment with all the different steps, more details for my Patreon. So now I use some black from Procolor. I use this one because it's a little bit glossy, so it's going to have some glossy effects on the end of these parts. And now I'm going to make the claws. So I'm going to use some turquoise to make a good contrast between the claws and the flesh. I use directly the turquoise as the first highlight, and I try to preserve a little part of my basic color on the claws to make my first shadow. So as you can see, I'm going to use more and more color and push always in the same direction, and after that I'm going to add more and more ivory into my turquoise to create my highlights on all these parts. Remember to use the side of your brush and to move your miniatures always to push your color in the most easy way. As you can see, I always move my minis and my brush to be sure that my movement will be the more easy and the more efficient I can. Once again, if you have any question, don't hesitate to post in the comments. I use as brush, I use Raphael 8404 in size 1 or 2. All depends of the size of the mini, but for example, right now I use the size 2. As you can see, I focus more and more on some few points just to create a very, very strong light. When I am at the end, I start to push a little bit more highlight on the flesh, just to be sure the flesh will be a little bit more highlight than the clothes. So as you can see, it's just some very, very few points. After that, I'm going to start to push some yellow on the eyes to create some strong contrast between the different color I use on the miniatures. It's not very important to have, you need a golden yellow, but I totally forget the name of the paint exactly, but you don't necessarily need, you just need a golden yellow. You don't need necessarily the same exact color. So after that, I'm going to add a little bit ivory into my yellow, and I'm going to push my highlights all around the eyes. To finish that, I'm going to put just 1 point of black to make the iris of eyes. I'm not sure the name is the same in French and English, iris for the eyes, but I try. Just tell me in the comments if that's right. As you can see, I just come back with ivory, so I can push some points in the eyes, but on all the surfaces. Now I start to create my highlights on the leather. So I start with some Fur Brown from Army Painter. It's going to be a perfect color to push my first highlight on the leather. I launch Kickstarter projects to create my own book of paint, whose name is The Art of Miniatures, and it was successfully funded, so it will be delivery in December. Just for the next step, I had a little bit ivory into my Fur Brown just to push more and more highlights on every leather part. This will be one of the last steps on these miniatures. I really enjoy paint these miniatures because it's pretty simple, pretty easy to paint. And as I explained before, when all the team will be totally finished, so you will be able to buy them on my website directly, when this website will be created. So you can see step by step that's just some few lines and few points of highlights. I don't want the focus on the leather for these miniatures, so I'm not going to make too much work on the leather, just a little bit. I come back just a little bit more with some red on some few parts, and that will be done. So after that, I just primed, just push a little bit varnish, matte varnish on all the miniatures, and a little bit gloss varnish on the eyes and on some few points to make some contrast. And I had the base in acrylic transparent. Don't hesitate, if you search this kind of base, you can find it on the Eden the Game website, It's pretty easy, and it's pretty cool when you want to paint. Thanks for watching this tutorial. I really hope you enjoy it. So next one will be next week. And don't hesitate to support me on Patreon if you like this kind of tutorial, and find the time to paint. See you guys!